Thank you for coming and joining us today. It's always a joy to be with you. So what makes these guys up here, the avatars, different from us? It's sometimes you can think, well, it might be the powers that they have. There's lots of stories if you read the autobiography of a yogi and the scriptures about what these avatars can do. They can walk on water, they can raise the dead, they can cure blindness and heal lepers and read people's thoughts and bilocate and be in different places at the same time. And they can do amazing things, and I can't do that. So that feels like, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's what's different. But it's not really, as we heard in the reading, it's not really a physical power like Superman, Superman, faster than a speeding bullet, and stronger than a locomotive, he's different than everybody else. But what we have to remember about the avatars is that, as they said in the reading again, we are the same. There's a movie that came to mind when I was reading about this called Joshua, which is a charming movie. The story is about a man who shows up in a small town, and he helps people. And it turns out that maybe he's Jesus, maybe he's an angel. He has a greater consciousness. But there's a scene, I love the movie, I would recommend it, except for this one scene that bothered me. He actually brings back somebody who just died. He brings them back to life. But of course, the directors, they don't know how to show the power of an avatar. So he lays his hand, the character who is his Jesus, he lays his hand on this man, and the man wakes up and comes back to life. But the character of Jesus, he acts strained, and like this was a physical feat he just performed that drained the energy out of him. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, no, that one they got wrong. That's not what happens. At least that's not what happens according to Swami Kriyananda, and who was a direct disciple of Yogananda and was a witness to miracles. And I don't think that's what happened with Jesus. They never explained in the Bible that Jesus then, healed the guy, and then he had to sit down and take a break for a while because it was so hard. But we are in these bodies, and we think of everything as being physical, that this is what's going on, is this physical world. And what we're talking about is consciousness. Cosmic consciousness is the word that Yogananda would use, which is pretty big. Cosmic consciousness. And that encompasses all the realities, the material as well as the mental and the spiritual. And so the avatars have this consciousness that is far expanded in all planes of existence, cosmically. There's another story that came to mind when I was reading. It's a Chinese folktale about a king who has big, beautiful gardens around his palace. And he has a gardener who he loves and who's been helping him take care of the gardens all these years, but the gardener is getting old. And they both know they're going to have to find a replacement to take care of the gardens when the present gardener is gone. So they get together and they talk about how they're going to do this, and they decide to have a contest. And they announce to the people that if you're interested in being the new royal gardener, that you should come to the palace on this certain day. So a whole lot of people came to the palace, and there in the square, they had arranged hundreds and hundreds of pots, planting pots. And they told everybody gets to take a pot home. Within the pot has been planted a seed. And in 6 months' time, you're to come back and show us what you've done with the pot, what you have. And so everybody took their pot home. And amongst all of these people who were hopefully going to become the new gardener was a young girl named Ping. Ping was quite young, and she took her pot home and watered it and took care of it and watched over it and prayed over it, and nothing grew. She moved it into the sun, then she moved it into the shade. She gave it more water, she gave it less water, she gave it fertilizer, she did everything she possibly could do, and she had quite a green thumb. She was known all around her neighborhood as somebody who could grow anything. And every day she got up looking for something in the pot, and nothing grew. 6 months went by, and nothing grew. She went back to the palace with all the other people, and as she walked into the palace, all these other people she saw were bringing their pots, and they had huge plants and gorgeous flowers and greenery, and she walked in with her empty pot. And they all put them down, and the king and the gardener came out, and they looked at all the pots, and they conferred with each other, and the gardener went and picked up the empty pot of Ping's and said, "Whose pot is this?" And Ping stepped forward, embarrassed, but she wanted to say, "Yes, this was mine. This is the one that grew nothing." And they said, "Come with me. Everybody else can leave." And she was told that all of the pots had seeds, but the seeds had been roasted before they had been planted. None of them were going to grow. Everybody else made up what they were doing. Everybody else wanted to show that they had the power of a great gardener. And so through various means, probably planting a different seed, they all came. Ping was the only one who had the honesty to say nothing would grow. They were interested in not what she was able to do, but in her consciousness. And of course, she got the job because she was willing to be honest and open about what was real and what she had the power to do. And this is also a good story about discipleship, isn't it? This is also the consciousness of a disciple who comes to the Avatar. The Avatar doesn't care what we can do, what our powers are. They're only interested in our consciousness. And the disciple comes to the Avatar with our empty pot. It says, I can't do this on my own. I need help. And there's avatars in all religions, in all paths, in all true paths. There are people who are avatars, who come to help and show the way. But they're not like Superman. They're like us. And Yogananda said it was like an avatar is like a graduate of a university who went to school, got their diploma, and now they're coming back as a graduate to help, to show, to encourage, to say, I did this, you can do it as well. That's why there's a lot of confusion about Jesus. A lot of people will come in and see Jesus on our altar and say, why? Not just because Jesus represents and is the Christian, avatar, but because most people don't see Jesus in the same light as these other masters we have up here. Because Jesus is presented, there's all this confusion over these 2,000 years since Jesus was here, but there's all this confusion about Jesus because Jesus, in the Bible and the teachings about Jesus, Jesus doesn't, he doesn't have a teacher. He doesn't learn as a student. He doesn't, there's no talk about reincarnation. That was all taken out of the Bible. So there's no understanding that he was a soul like us that evolved, that learned, that grew, that made mistakes, that had all these experiences, that learned from his guru and then finally attained that spiritual height of self-realization. The teaching, and what seems to be the teachings of Christianity now, is that Jesus just plopped in to that manger on Christmas, and that's he's a special creation. This misunderstanding, as Swami tells it, also is also prevalent in India, even though there's this culture of gurus and spiritual teachings. There's still this misunderstanding about avatars often, that avatars are specially created by God and given sort of as a gift, like, okay, they're going to help you, but they're different than you and I. And that's not at all what Yogananda taught. It's not what any of these avatars taught. So the avatars come because what they've done is attain that understanding and that union with God. And instead of disappearing into the infinite and into that bliss of God that they now can experience, they don't have to come back. They don't have to reincarnate. They have no more karma. They have no compulsion to be here. But there are those few who come back and say, I will help those who are still in delusion, that are still struggling in the darkness. Yogananda, as a little baby, was held by his mother, and she went to visit her guru, who was Lahiri Mahashaya, and she's holding this new young little infant, Yogananda, and hoping that her guru will bless him. And he asks her to come up, and he touches the baby, and he says, he will be a great yogi. He will be a spiritual engine who will take many souls to God. And that's what an avatar can do. They're given a mission to come to Earth, to come back in physical form to help many others. There's no limit to the number of souls that they can help. And they work through, they work with everyone on all levels. They help those who just need help coping with life. How do I deal with life? How do I work with life in the highest consciousness possible? And they also help those who are ready to get out of here, who are ready to leave this pain and suffering and delusion and make their way back into peace and bliss of God. And so the avatars are able to, just by being here, can help everybody on all levels, thousands and thousands of people. But not like Superman, not like, here I am going to rescue you. You know, you look like you're in trouble, and I'll just zoom in there and pick you up and take you out of here and put you someplace safe. How do they help? They help us by introducing us to our divine self, by reminding us who they really are. There's a story that Yogananda told about a lion cub who was found, an orphaned lion cub who was found by a herd of sheep. And they raised the lion cub. And so this little lion cub grew up with these sheep, basically thinking he was a sheep. And he would graze like the sheep. And he would hide when the wolves came, like the sheep. And he would bah, bah, like a sheep. He didn't realize he was a lion. And so one day, though, another lion, a real lion, big lion, actually appeared in the middle of the sheep. And the sheep scattered, scared, of course, to death, running here and there. And the lion sheep also did the same thing, trembling, scared, bah, bah, don't eat me. And the lion said, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're a lion. You're not a sheep. And then the sheep is scared. The lion is scared. And he takes the lion to the water. and shows him the reflection in the water and says, look at that. Look at who you really are. You are actually a lion. And the lion could see, I don't look like a sheep. I look like the lion. But I'm going to read you, because the Master's rendition in Whispers from Eternity is so much fun. This is the story. This is actually number 43 in Whispers, and it's called Make Me a Lion of Thy All-Conquering Wisdom. I, a lion cub of the Divine Mother, found myself thrown into life among the sheep of human frailties, of fear, failure, and disease. Living long among them, I learned to bleat with weakness, forgetting my lion nature and its roars, which could frighten away all petty, pestering sorrows. O lion of realization, thou didst drag me away from those bleating sheep to the mirror-smooth waters of meditation. There didst thou cry, gaze! But I held my eyes tightly shut, bleeding with fear. Thy roar of wisdom then reverberated through my body. Thou madest me by hard shaking and spiritual urging. Open my eyes, and there, lo, in the crystal pool of my inner peace, I saw my features to be even as thine own. Now I know myself as the lion of cosmic power. I will bleat no more with fear, weakness, and suffering, for I roar now with vibrant, almighty power. I bound about through the forest of all experiences, seizing little creatures of vexing worries, timid fears, and wild hyenas of disbelief, devouring them ruthlessly. I love that part. O lion of immortality, roar through me, thine all-conquering power of wisdom. This is how they help us. They shake us and wake us up and say, look at who you are. I actually have in my meditation area at home, my kids had large stuffed tigers. We didn't have lions, we had tigers. So in my meditate, I sit in my meditation chair and I have 3 big stuffed tigers in my meditation to remind me. I tend to be a sheep, so I'm trying to remember that power of the Avatar that we find when we wake up and we realize who we are. Jesus described it as a mustard seed of consciousness, that we're so small, and the mustard seed, if planted, can grow into this huge tree. Here in the Northwest, maybe it's easier to relate to a giant oak tree or a redwood. You know, redwood trees grow from teeny tiny little seeds that are about the size of a tomato seed, say, really small, into these huge towering trees. And that is within us. That towering consciousness that the avatars have is the same that we can tap into, that we have within us. Jesus also said that the kingdom of heaven, which Yogananda says is the kingdom of awareness, of the divine awareness, is like leaven, yeast, that the woman put into 3 different loaves of dough, and the dough rose. The leaven caused it to expand. And I've always wondered about that, but I can certainly imagine and understand the yeast makes the dough rise. But I thought, why 3? Jesus says there were 3. And Yogananda explained that that's the 3 levels of consciousness. Subconscious level, the conscious level, and the superconscious level. That this expansion of consciousness happens on all levels, that our consciousness expands into infinity. And then, of course, the question is, how? how to find that consciousness. So the planting of the leaven, the putting the leaven into the dough, the planting of the seed to grow into a giant redwood tree, that happens in meditation. That's where we need to grow our consciousness. And the avatars are here to tell us. They can tell us all kinds of things about living in this world, about how to be a better person. But when it comes to expanding our consciousness, what we need to do is meditate. We need to turn our attention away from the delusion of this world, the unreality. We're told constantly by the avatars, this is a dream. This is not real. And we need to turn away from that into the inner reality and discover that consciousness of God within. And that we don't have to find it out there somewhere, that it's actually within all the time. We even struggle, though, with meditation as a physical process. We're so tied into this physical world and our body consciousness that even with meditation, believe me, I've been doing, I haven't been the greatest meditator, but I've been trying to do this for about 40 years. I still struggle with the idea that meditation is a physical act. I have to get my shawl just right. I have to get the right kind of chair I'm sitting in. I have to worry about my back or my knees. I have to be warm enough or cold enough. Should I wear my headphones today? Should I not wear my headphones today? The practices require me breathing in different ways. And in doing, it's all this physical mentality, which we have to work with. We have to start with where we are. I understand that. But meditation is not a physical act. Meditation is about consciousness. It's about what are we doing with our consciousness and where are we putting our consciousness. And that's what the avatars, that's why we have their pictures up on our altars, is to look at them and remember, it's their consciousness that we want to tune into. Swami Kriyananda had a little book called The Secrets of Meditation, and on Friday nights, here at 7 o'clock on Friday nights, I do a drop-in meditation. There's usually only a few of us, but every week I read one of the secrets of meditation, and that's what leads us into our hour of meditation here. And there's several in there. There's a few that talk about sitting upright and that kind of thing, but mostly all of his secrets of meditation are about consciousness. And there's several that help us tune into this idea of the avatar, that we are of infinite consciousness like they are. One of them is to pray with deep faith, not as an outsider to heaven, but as one whose true eternal home is in heaven. That's where we came from. Not heaven like, a puffy, nice little cloud somewhere, but in that consciousness of bliss and peace. Another one, secret of meditation, is dwelling on the thought of great saints, past and present, who have known God, attuning your consciousness to theirs. Again, that's why we have their pictures up here. We want to attune to those people who have done it before. If we were trying to be a great musician, we would want to attune ourselves to the musicians who have shown the way, how to do that. Well, they have shown the way to bliss, and that's what we want to tune into. Another secret of meditation is releasing yourself from the limitations of body and ego, identifying yourself with infinity. To be honest, we can't even conceive of an infinity. It's like this, it is so far beyond. But Yogananda was often reminding us to think of ourselves as infinite, to remind ourselves all day. He said, think of yourself as infinite spirit. I am infinite spirit. He said even to visualize infinity in whatever way you can do that all around you when you meditate, to even to look at pictures of cosmic pictures and all. On my computer, I have like a stellar cosmic picture like out in space. I look at it a lot to remind myself, infinity is my true reality, not this teeny tiny little body with this teeny tiny little consciousness. I am infinite. He also said that one secret of meditation is affirming that you already are those high truths toward which you aspire: inner peace, divine love, perfect joy. We don't have to obtain them from somebody. The avatars don't give it to us. All they say is, look inside, you will find it. That's who you really are. That's who you really are. And why do they come? Why do they come? It's not just that they had an assignment, and God said, okay, you're the one, you go down, you go do this. Yes, sir, got to go do that. The love that God has for us, the love that the avatars bring for us, is why they're here. It's all about love. And it's absolutely unimaginable how much love that takes to come from, we say it in the festival, a life of infinite joy, freedom. These are souls who have been through all the agonies, all the suffering, all the pain and sorrow that we have. And they finally get to that point of total freedom and bliss. And what do? They turn around and they come back. This is, you guys get double whispers today, bonus. This one is called God's Boatman, that Yogananda wrote. I want to ply my boat many times across the gulf after death and return to earth's shores from my home in space. I want to load my boat with all those waiting, thirsty ones who've been left behind, that I may carry them to the opalescent pool of iridescent joy, there where my Father distributes his all-desire-quenching liquid peace. I will come back again and again, crossing a million crags of suffering. With bleeding feet I will come, if need be, 1 trillion times, as long as I know that one stray brother is left behind. I want thee, O God, that I may give thee to all. I want salvation, that I may give it to all. Free me then, O Lord, from the bondage of this body, that I may show others how they too can free themselves. I want thine everlasting happiness, but I want also to share it with others, that all my brothers may find the way to happiness forever and forever in thee. Our affirmation today was on sharing. It's almost ludicrous, the idea that we have of sharing. We share our cookies that we make. We share our personal possessions. We share our time. We share our thoughts with people. We share our ideas and opinions, whether they want to hear them or not. We share. But the affirmation said it's the clearest path to God. Because why? Because what you experience, you are trying to give to others. This is what the avatars do. They share the eternal bliss of their experience and their self-realization with us out of pure divine love. There's one more secret of meditation that Swami has. The secret of meditation is dwelling on the thought of God's love for you. and destroying in a bonfire of devotion any lingering doubts. Dwell on that thought of love and the presence of the avatars, and you will find that bliss too. Om, Amen.